Namaskar, good morning everyone, welcome. Firstly, my warm welcome to each one of you who is joining me for the Editorial Edge, the daily news analysis, the special series that StudyIQ IAS has exclusively come up with for students to be delivered, the whole course, the whole sessions to be delivered in English language. Once again, I welcome each one of you. All those of you who will be joining me live, who are joining me live, Shrishti Kumari, good morning. Coder ST, good morning again, good morning, welcome. And those who will be watching this again through the course of the day and possibly in the days ahead to come. So, first things first, today on the agenda we have three important articles. Okay, one article is to do with OPEC versus OPEC Plus, what they have recently done in terms of oil supply, why is it what they are doing, and what will be the consequence for India. Okay, especially when you factor in the whole oil production game, one thing that you factor in is India's trade with Russia, the fuel imports with Russia. So how does that counterbalance against the OPEC's motives or its objectives? We will look at that. Thereafter, we will look at a very niche but a very important topic. Okay, so we will look at the women in social commerce. So again, if you have been on Instagram or all of these social media apps, you will see that women collectives, self-help groups, well, they are coming up in a major manner. Okay, advertising, selling their products that they are making. And so what is going to be the effect of this? How can this be further solidified? Okay, what is the consequence of having, good morning Rajan, good morning, welcome please all of you. So what is the consequence of having more women in the digital economy? Okay, because again, when you consider the digital economy or just economy in general, what you often find is that it's dominated by the men, that they are the primary input force as well as the maximum the power that they derive out of it, the monetary value that they derive out of it. Okay, so there is a lot of gender disparity in terms of women, men, and say a participation in the economy. Okay, and obviously you must have understood now that the more participation you have in the economy for a particular gender, the more finances that you have, the obviously the knock-off effects after that follow. Your position in the societal hierarchy and all of that is determined essentially by the way how much your financial independence is. Okay, so we will look at those concepts too. Abhay, do I cover Indian Express and Hindu both? Well, yes, Abhay, what I do is I look at 3 to 4 topics per day. Okay, from not just the Hindu but also the Indian Express. I look at articles from Financial Times, Economic Times, some of the major environment portals. Okay, because the whole point of this daily news analysis is to arm you with information that is wide in scope. Obviously, Hindu remains the primary focus, but I will not limit myself just to the Hindu because again, questions are asked from anywhere and everywhere. Okay, so just to limit yourself to one source, while it is a prudent strategy, it may not be enough. So my strategy is Hindu plus, just like OPEC and OPEC plus. So I have Hindu and Hindu plus. Okay, that includes the other publications, right? So that's my second topic. Okay, we'll discuss about women in social media commerce and whether it provides a tailwind to resilient growth. Tailwind is the driving force for ships, no, when they are out in the sea. So if there is a strong tailwind, which means the wind is coming from its back, it's going to go faster. So that's the same thing. Will it provide more impetus? Will it provide more momentum to resilient growth? Of course, any one newspaper you follow, but you follow it in detail. That's the mantra, bhai, always. But then always make sure you consume information from different sources. Don't just limit yourself and your understanding to one paper in depth plus whatever you can lay your hands on so that you can at least recall it. The main point is not to study, the main point is to recall during the examination. Okay, and so for that, what is essential is that you maintain a notebook or a writing pad, something that you can probably go back to it and look at it later. Obviously, I intend on providing PDFs of all the lectures that I do. I have been doing that in my Telegram group. So there are ways you can obviously scientifically approach this whole preparation method, which is obviously recommended. Okay, rather than just pointlessly reading articles and not understanding the connotation of it. Fact-based approach will probably just make sure that you cross prelims. Means you'll be found out. Okay. And third, we will look at the Kakhovka Dam in Ukraine. So again, this has been in the news I did do a explainer video on the eco side, okay, the ecological destruction that is currently happening in the Black Sea Biosphere Reserve as a result of the Kakhovka dam's destruction. If you're not aware, this is in context of the Russia-Ukraine conflict on the Dnieper River. So we will quickly have a look at that too, just as a recap from what we did last night for all of you who are interested in understanding the whole complexity of the destruction of this particular dam and what it means for the fragile ecosystem of Ukraine. Go ahead and check out that video. It's on StudyIQ English. Under the live section, you will find it there. All right. Okay, so we'll get going. We have a couple of questions, MCQs, the usual routine that we do. So let's straight away jump into the topic for the day. The first one that I have for you guys is, well, obviously, we'll discuss the whole thing on OPEC and OPEC Plus. But before that, 2 minutes as you quickly gather your pen, pencil and your chai coffee. So CSAT, you must have seen by now, this year was a rude shock. To make sure that next year again you don't get a rude shock, what StudyIQ IAS has done is come up with a scientific method, a scientific preparation plan to make sure that you cross the minimum threshold with ease. Okay, if you look at the paper this year, most of the trouble arises because students were not prepared in mathematics, students were not prepared in reasoning, and obviously there is a lack of understanding in combating reading comprehension also, which I have personally seen at large. People tend to go by their gut instinct rather than actually knowing what to look for in a passage. So we are obviously looking to combat that for the students, which is why StudyIQ IAS has come up with the special CSAT batch, 100 classes. 100 classes you give to us, and we will make sure that you cross 120, 130, whatever score that you are targeting in CSAT. Okay. So again, if you are interested, the classes are beginning on the 30th of June, 3:30 p.m. every day. I will be responsible for the reading comprehension bit in this. So again, if you want to have a demo class or if you want to see the content that I teach, well, again, go ahead to StudyIQ IAS English. Under the playlists, you will find the reading comprehension revision series that I had started just prior to CSAT 2023. Have a look at the kind of questions we did and then have a look at the UPSC 2023 CSAT paper and let me know if you make sense of it, if you make sense of the way we had approached CSAT. Okay, and make sure to use this code. Essentially, if you use this code, what you do is you save close to 10,000 rupees. So that's quite a huge amount. Okay, so do consider joining me. The course beginning on the 30th of June. From what I am told, the seats are filling up fast. So I would suggest that you make an urgent decision on this. All right. Now let's get to the first topic of the day. The first topic that I told you is to do with OPEC. What exactly is OPEC? What exactly is OPEC versus OPEC Plus? Okay. And new term that I want to introduce to you today is NOPEC. See, international relations is so interesting. Okay, there is a C here. All right. So OPEC versus OPEC Plus versus NOPEC. So again, different terms, different connotation. But let's look at the questions that I have for you first. All right, let's use this. India needs to directly engage with OPEC Plus countries to maintain a more pragmatic approach to energy trade. Discuss the prospects, number 1, and challenges, number 2, for India as a major importer of energy. Now again, this topic has been done to death. If you have been studying Hindu, if you have been studying Express, you must have seen almost every other week you'll find an article on India's energy imports, India's burgeoning fuel bill. Okay, all of that is very relevant because energy and oil is something that directly impacts your and my life, directly in fact. Okay, and not just our lives, the life of almost everyone in the country. So which is why it's important that you maintain a tight grip on the prices of oil. At the same time, this is on the individual level. On the national level, having a higher fuel bill, because again, we do not have many oil fields. We are still exploring there. We import a lot of our fuel. We pay for that in dollars. So the more you import, the more stress it is on the economy. So we'll discuss what exactly is that now. And let's look at this question, guys, quickly. If you know the answer to this, quickly shoot the answer in the comment box below, okay? OPEC Plus is a global consortium of major oil producing and oil consuming nations. And number 2, global crude oil prices are determined by the free market mechanism guided by the OPEC Plus countries. Which of the above is or are correct? No options because, well, let's prepare without options. You should know the statements. If you know the statements, you can guess master your way to the answer. Okay, even if you have partial understanding. Fine. So if you know the answer to this, please let me know in the chat. 1 only, 2 only, both, none of the above. And this is what the whole lecture is going to be based on. So this mains question is going to become the fulcrum of our discussion today. All right. Okay, let's get started. Number 1, the topic for the day. Firstly, let's understand what is OPEC Plus. But before you come to OPEC Plus, you quickly have to understand, well, what is OPEC? What exactly is this? You have all heard of this particular organization. Okay, so the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Okay, when was it formed? Long before you and I were even born, in fact. Okay, formed in 1960. Okay, now why was it formed? Well, essentially to maintain a control, a grip on the prices. These were the oil producing nations. You now know that oil is not found everywhere across the world. Certain areas only that you find. Certain countries that have harnessed the ability to generate oil-based revenue. So they'll be exporting crude oil, getting good money for that. Okay. Option A is correct. Okay, we'll discuss the answer. We'll quickly discuss the answer, Rajan Kumar, but let's look at the theory behind first. Okay. So OPEC is essentially formed in 1960. Okay. And its founding members, well, you will know which ones. Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, okay, you had Venezuela, all right, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Venezuela, Saudi was also there, Saudi Arabia. Am I missing any country here, guys? Huh? I think that's enough. These were the founding members of OPEC. So these all countries got together and they said, well, you know what? We are going to maintain a grip on the oil prices. Oil prices is essentially going to be determined by these individuals. Okay. Now the conference or the particular meeting that led to the formation of OPEC, quickly have a no for that too. It is a product of the Baghdad conference. Okay. Have a look at this. It's a product of the Baghdad conference. So they met here and eventually decided that we are going to form a cartel. What exactly is a cartel, guys? What exactly is cartel? You must have heard, no, cartelization in the market. So what exactly is a cartel? Or you must have seen, say, Pablo Escobar's Narcos. Yeah, Netflix, it was very popular. I think Netflix or Amazon Prime, somewhere it was there. So very popular. So it was also a drug cartel. So they are an oil cartel. So what's the sense that you're getting? That they are a closed group. That as a group, they look out for their interests only. Okay. So now that you know that these countries essentially decided on this in the year 1960 as a reference to the Baghdad conference, now let's understand what OPEC Plus is. So a group of 23 countries, 13 belonging to OPEC. Obviously, the membership of this has now increased. And you have 10 non-OPEC countries. Russia is a part of the non-OPEC countries. Make a note of this, guys. Again, a statement, since Russia is in the news, you never know that UPSC might suddenly ask you, okay, is Russia a part of OPEC? So it's part of the non-OPEC countries. Now, why are they relevant? Why is it that suddenly the whole world is talking about this group of 23 countries? Okay. So OPEC pumps 40% of the world's oil, most influential body when it comes to crude oil prices. A small action by the OPEC countries, excuse me, a small action by the OPEC plus countries in terms of either supply, reducing supply, increasing supply, whatever that they do, has straight away domino effect across all countries. Okay, because 40% of the market share when you hold, you are like the biggest player in the market. They are like the Google of the oil market. Okay, so now Saudi Arabia currently is the biggest OPEC producer. So out of this 40%, Saudi is responsible for the majority. Now you understand why suddenly Saudi Arabia is important? Why every president of the United States makes it a point to pay a visit to Saudi Arabia? Okay. The other reason is obviously that you have an interesting, a very competent ally in the Middle East for sure. That probably furthers your interests. Excuse me. But in terms of oil supply, the influence Saudi Arabia has is amazing. It's actually par excellence. Excuse me. So what they have done now is in the past 2 years, they have reduced or cut their supply of oil production. Just after the pandemic, you had the OPEC plus countries come together and decide that, okay, we are going to reduce production. Thereafter that, in a few months, again they decided to reduce production. And of late, just yesterday or day before, I think, they have gone ahead and said, further cuts. We will reduce the supply of oil in the global market even more. Okay. What's going to happen now? If the supply is less, you straight away know that the prices are going to go up. Okay. So crude oil barrel that was currently trading at I think around $70, essentially at one time was $120. Then it came down to $100. Then it came down to $70. So the price of crude oil is decreasing. So you can understand now that suddenly OPEC countries are like, oh my God, our profit margins are decreasing. And eventually they are selling oil for their national interest because it serves their economy. Okay. They are not really concerned with the economy of the whole world, or at least they have to maintain balance in that particular question. Okay. So look at this. The move comes in the wake of weakening crude oil prices and have implications obviously for our own economy too. Straight away you can understand that this is a topic that is inherently linked to our financial stability. You all have heard of the current account deficit, FRBM rules. Okay, what we should do to maintain our CAD below a certain threshold. Now straight away you know that if India is spending more dollars in buying say the same amount of oil, it's going to affect our revenue, it's going to affect our financial stability. It's going to affect our economy for sure. Your current account deficit will go higher. Okay, so now let's go forward. These are the countries essentially, guys. So if you look at it, most of the OPEC countries are currently in Asia. Okay. Most of them are in the Asia. Thereafter, in the Southern America, you have Venezuela and I believe one more country is there. Okay, Venezuela and one more country is there. Thereafter, you have countries across the world. In fact, Africa also has countries. Algeria and all of those have come up. Gabon, one country was there. Gabon, Gabon. This essentially quit OPEC once upon a time, then tried to rejoin it. Okay, so this is an organization because it's a cartel. You have to understand. I don't want to use the term loosely, but a sort of mafia, that they control the oil market through their actions. Not a world body, not a participatory body. It's like a closed door coterie of friends who look out for each other's interests. Okay. So, why is OPEC reducing production now? Okay. Why is it that suddenly they have decided that, okay, let's cut oil prices, let's cut oil supply? Because if they sell more, then obviously it would make sense for them, no? But then the prices are showing a downward trend, like I told you. The prices are showing a downward trend. So if they reduce supply, they are hoping that the demand will go up and hopefully the prices will go up, more profit for them. So let's look at it. Number one, the reasons now, the global reasons as to why OPEC has decided to cut prices. First one, Chinese recovery. China is a major player, a major guzzler of oil. Now, when you look at their COVID policy they had, it was flawed. Their vaccines didn't work as expected. So, which means that they were investing more time in making sure that the situation got back to normal. Industries were again, that were closed during the pandemic, slow recovery, slow opening. So, the weakening Chinese demand also is the major reason why global oil prices are now showing a downward trend. Because China is not importing or not consuming the amount of fuel that it was consuming, say, prior to the pandemic. Okay. So reason number one, obviously, the red dragon is not having his fair share of oil. Number 2, Western sanctions interfering with the dynamics of the market. Now please understand this. When you look at the question that I told you here, okay, have a look at this question first and then we will try and understand what I'm trying to convey. Firstly, OPEC Plus is a global consortium of major oil producing and oil consuming nations. Well, yes, oil producing for sure. Oil consuming? You know that the major oil consuming nations are, say, India, China. They are not part of OPEC. It's only to do with the production side. So, incorrect statement. Number 2, global crude oil prices are determined by the free market mechanism. What is the free market mechanism? Where the market forces or the market dynamics essentially determine the price of a particular object, a particular product. Okay, that is free market. There is no intervention from any side, not from the government side or any of the non-government side. It's purely the interplay of market forces. Here you have these kind of countries who are not letting the free market process play out. No, if they have the power of reducing oil supply or increasing oil supply, then they're essentially tampering with this process, this particular process, which means this statement is also incorrect. So which of the statements above are correct? None. None of the statements above are correct. So this is what you're supposed to do. When you look at the information, don't just look at the information like, okay, there are 23 countries, fine, I know OPEC. No. The countries' names are not very important. Even if you have a fair idea of which continent has the more OPEC members, fine. But thereafter, you should know the work that they're doing. Does it translate into free market mechanism? No. Okay. So this statement I have answered for you. Now let's look at this one here. Western sanctions interfering with the dynamics of the market. What is essentially happening again? In an ideal world, the price point of oil would be determined exclusively by the free market mechanism, depending on demand supply globally. Okay, this would be the ideal way of doing it. But then at the same time, you have, say, the OPEC countries that have the power of reducing or increasing oil supply. At the same time, America now is imposing sanctions, or at least the US, the Western world is imposing sanctions. You are essentially again tampering with the free market mechanism. If you can determine the price point of a particular article or object through your actions, that's not free market, no. So this is again interfering. Okay. People are circumspect of the outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war. And I'll tell you one thing, guys. All of these reasons, even though might look to you as very simple, but then the oil market is not very simple. It's sensitive. A small change anywhere, even a political problem anywhere, if it is related to the OPEC countries or if it is related to the global outcome, it's going to straight away shoot up the oil price or decrease the oil price. It's one of the most sensitive fields that you can possibly think of. That faraway events, an earthquake somewhere else, possibly could increase the price of oil somewhere else. Okay. So it's a sensitive market, which is why these kind of unilateral actions essentially undermine the whole free market mechanism that one can possibly hope for. Okay. Thereafter, banking crisis fears. Now look at this again. Happening in US, multiple banks shutting down, defaulting. But then the oil market is like, wait, if it is happening in US, it means maybe recession is coming, maybe there is some problem. Maybe there is going to be again contraction of demand. If there is going to be contraction of demand, and if my prices are low, I am going to lose out. As OPEC plus countries, that's what I'll say, no? That I am going to be at loss then. So, problem again. You had the debt ceiling negotiations. That was again, thankfully, at the last hour, as they always do, they passed it. But then, the uncertainty, will US economy default? If it defaults, what happens to the payments that it has? What happens to its import obligations? How will the oil market react then? So again, show a downward trend. It will only show an upward trend when there is competition, when there is growth happening. If it is showing a downward trend, it means countries are now slowing down. Economic growth is slowing down. There's a direct correlation of sorts. Okay. So, at the same time, US also has diversified. The diversification of oil. Something that you should understand in detail, guys. Okay. The diversification of oil. Now US is also like, we don't want to be dependent on OPEC countries. Okay, straight away, it makes sense. I don't want to be dependent on a mafia, on a cartel to make sure that my economy is safe. No, that wouldn't be the most prudent strategy. So US has started their own US shale productions, punishing speculators. Yeah, the Harshad Mehtas of the oil market, who will bet against the market or bet for the market depending on the circumstances that they foresee. So the OPEC wants to punish them. They're like, no, you can't bet on this. You can't short supply us, short termers. So look at it. Short selling betting on oil price decline. So they want to punish those. Okay. No short selling here. Whatever the price is, we will determine, and you can't win out of this. There is only one winner in this game, that is the OPEC countries. Okay. And then you understand NOPEC. So this is a particular act that the US has come up with. Like I told you, US wants to decouple. This is again a very interesting word if you want to use in your examination, guys. The decoupling of USA. What it essentially means. Can someone tell me in the chat box? What does decoupling of the United States means? It's an article or it's a word that you must have heard in the recent few months. Especially say since Donald Trump decided to walk out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Thereafter, this term picked up that USA is decoupling. Okay. So if you look at it in the US-China equation, you will see that they have decoupled, which means that eventually, earlier, they had converging interests or at least cooperation of some sorts. Now they are like, you go your way, I go my way. Okay. So for example, have you seen that movie Fast and Furious? So there is no that last scene, that guy is going this way, this guy is going this way. So they decoupled. Essentially, they went their separate paths. Now, USA and China have decoupled in various fields, from information sharing to military to cyber security to just economics. Trading also they are decoupling. De-dollarization is happening. So many terms are happening. No? So to have a comprehensive understanding, look at it sector by sector and then fit the puzzles, then fit the pieces of the puzzle. Then it's a more comprehensive understanding of the global affairs. Then you understand international relations. Okay. So NOPEC by USA essentially wants to curtail this dependency on OPEC countries, on the OPEC plus countries. So USA has taken lead in that through a legislation, in fact. They came up with a legislation where they said like, okay, we are going to reduce our dependency, improve our own domestic supply. Okay. And thereafter, this whole conversation that I told you right at the very beginning, guys. So essentially, it's the fight of what's good for me versus what's good for the whole global community. The OPEC countries always have this. And they always prioritize, and rightly so, because again, they are a cartel. So they can't be expected to speak for the global community. They always look out for their interests first because their oil exporting capability is directly linked to their own economic capability. That's their primary export. Okay. So the OPEC countries' economic priority versus the devaluation of the dollar, this has been happening recently. And so this is also eating into the profit margin of the OPEC plus countries, which is why now they are going ahead and saying, wait, we will reduce production. If we reduce production, hopefully the prices will go up. Artificial scarcity will be created. You know what artificial scarcity is, no guys? Huh? As Indians, we have seen that everywhere. You go to the railway station or the airport or the bus station, 10 counters are built, only 2 are functioning with huge queues. Artificial scarcity. Okay. That you have 10 places where you could buy tickets from, but due to some reason, only 2 are open. Artificial scarcity. So this is what they are doing. They are creating artificial scarcity in the market with the hope that the prices will go up. Okay. That the downward decline of the oil prices per barrel in USD, that will eventually pick up. Okay. Now that we have understood this, let's go back and understand what should we do? What is the consequence that we are looking at? Number one, like I told you, production cut would raise the crude oil prices. It will increase our import bill, correct? Which means we pay more in dollars, and hence our current account deficit looks at being completely adversely affected. Okay. You know that we have certain targets for current account deficit that is proposed to be reached by the government. Let me know if you know what the target is. How much percent of the GDP that we have targeted under the FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management. Let me know, whoever knows that, quickly let me know in the chat. Thereafter, higher oil prices will increase the cost of production and transportation for various sectors, affecting their profitability and competitiveness. Because oil is part of the primary economy. It basically is a primary sector. Change in oil prices will change the price of almost everything, because everything has to be either transported, which means oil will be used, okay, or it is made out of a byproduct of oil. Oil will be used, price go up. So this is again bad news for us, for you and I as a consumer. Okay. At the same time, disposable income of consumers. So at a time, I remember petrol used to be for somewhere around 50-60 rupees. I remember I had filled it myself. Okay. So it used to be around 60 rupees. Now it is currently around what, 100, 190, 100. So what is it? 30 rupees per liter I am paying extra. And if my salary has grown by say from 50 rupees to only 60 rupees, and I am having to pay right now, that time I used to pay 20 rupees, now I am having to pay say 40 rupees. What is happening? My disposable income is going down. The money that I could have invested or used for my children, my family, my parents, not there anymore. I don't have a crisis fund that if some problem happens in the family, I should have at least some tangible amount of cash crisis fund. Not there. And this situation had increased after the pandemic. Curiously, for some, their portion of disposable income increased. Okay, the say higher middle class, their disposable income increased, whereas for the lower class, their disposable income decreased. The effects of the pandemic, when you look at it, say in economic terms, it's not uniform. For many people, pandemic was a time of celebration, of chilling, like, ghar pe baithe, relax, okay, have good food, relax. For some, it was a matter of survival. They didn't have the money to invest in their health protection or say vaccination or whatever. Vaccination was free, but all of that, the other things. Okay. So disposable income is again adversely affected, not just by the pandemic, but again the resultant price devaluation that is happening after the pandemic. Excuse me. Okay. Then you have your subsidy burden that will increase, okay, which has to bear the difference between the market price and the control price for two things, no? Kerosene and LPG. You know this, guys? I'm sure you do. Okay. That government bears the subsidy bill for these two particular things, kerosene and LPG. What are the policies, guys? Wherein you give away your subsidy for LPG. What is it called? Good morning, Lokesh Patil. Welcome. Let me know if suddenly you must have LPG in your houses. Okay. You must have also heard the Prime Minister say that if you can afford to give up your LPG subsidy, give it up. Okay. So, under which scheme was this LPG subsidy being provided? Let me know the name in the chat, guys. Let's make it interactive. It's an hour of learning for you. Okay. Rather than read the newspaper alone, bored, not understanding half the things, having to Google everything. Here I am having done the homework for you. All you need to do is have your chai and write down. And look at it after the class is finished. It will solidify in your head. I can assure you that. Okay. Fine. Higher oil prices will increase India's dependence on forex and external borrowings. Obviously, our forex levels have increased a lot. It's stabilized a lot. But you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're eventually having to get from external borrowers or go dip into your forex to meet your fuel bill. It's not desired. Okay. So, this will expose India to currency fluctuations, global financial shocks, and obviously our trade deficit with the countries that we import oil from, that will vastly increase. After all, what are we exporting to them? Possibly what? Some items can't be compared to oil, no? Oil is going to be obviously of prime importance in the bilateral trade also. They will call the shots in that relationship. In diplomacy, you want relationship of equality. However, if you are importing something absolutely needed for your sustenance, for your survivability, and in return you are giving them, say, just toys, yeah, it's not a relationship of equals. They will have more say, more negotiating power on the table. You don't want that as a country. You want to call the shots. You want to negotiate from a position of authority. And that comes when you have taken steps to reduce your vulnerability, to reduce your dependence on a particular country for your survivability. Okay, it's just pragmatism, guys. It's what you would also do. That's what the country also does. Ujjwala Yojana, correct. But what's the scheme, the exact scheme under which you give up your oil, your gas subsidy, LPG subsidy? What's that scheme called? Let me know. That's similar, but one term name. Okay, so what are the options for India now? Now that I've given you the bad news, that okay, because of the actions of OPEC, this is how we are going to be threatened. So what is the response for India now? Number one, diversification. The diversification of energy is prime importance. Okay. What does diversification mean? Diversify. Don't just rely on one particular medium, one particular channel. Like I tell you, diversification of preparation. Don't just rely on one particular newspaper. Obviously, go through it in detail. No one denying that. But then have an analysis, fact-based, just being fact-based and looking at facts and understanding, not understanding their connotation is useless, guys. Okay. UPSC demands you to analyze. It demands you to have opinions, no matter what everyone says. Yeah, in your interview, you're not going to regurgitate facts. They are going to ask you opinions. And if you don't have an opinion, you will fumble and mumble and say something, and then you will be shocked at your interview score. Okay. So next, we have substantial untapped oil and gas reserves. We need to quickly start working on them, both onshore and offshore. What's the difference, guys? Onshore and offshore? What's the difference? So is Mumbai oil field, is it an onshore or an offshore? Mumbai oil field. And say the Rajasthan oil field, onshore or offshore? Offshore. So onshore is essentially that you are drilling on the surface of the earth, that you are going deep in the crust to find oil. So the Rajasthan field is an onshore, whereas offshore is that you are drilling in the seabed. Okay, that you are drilling in under the ocean or the sea looking for oil. So you have, say, the Mumbai refinery or the Mumbai project is an offshore. Remember this, very simple. Okay, we'll tell you, don't worry. Please understand this though, guys. Onshore and offshore, very simple. Here you're looking at in terms of the crustal drilling. You'll go drill in the crust. Here you drill in the seabed. Okay. So this is essential. At the same time, look outside the OPEC, which already India has done. How did we do so? We went to the Russians. Yes, we decided to trade with the Russians. Russians, not a part of the OPEC, but OPEC plus. So again, a part of the diversification. This is diversification of oil in terms of your energy generating capabilities. This is diversification in terms of where you import. At what terms do you import? If OPEC is giving me for $70 per barrel, and if Russia is giving me for $55 a barrel, I'm again giving you approximate, in fact, just imaginary numbers. Don't even go in the numbers. Obviously, it makes sense for me to get from Russia. No matter what the European Union says, what the Western one tries to preach, fine. Even you should practice what you preach. They don't. So why should we? Okay. Thereafter, strategic oil reserves, guys. Very, very important. Extremely important. Can someone tell me what are strategic oil reserves? These are the locations, obviously. You have 2 in Karnataka, 2 in the state of Karnataka, 1 in Andhra Pradesh, and this is in Odisha. Okay. So our strategic oil reserves are our oil buffers. Okay. Because you must have known. So see, just look at history, 1971 war. So the Indian Navy went and barricaded the whole southern part of the Pakistan through the Arabian Sea. Blockade was launched, essentially cutting off their energy route, that they could not import oil, could not get anything, no help, no replenishments, nothing. So this is done so that in a scenario where something like that, something adverse, forget war only, natural calamity, anything, you have at least a buffer of oil. Because nahi to, the whole country, the whole nation will come to a standstill, no? Eventually you need oil to make the country walk, to make the country run. Which is why these particular strategic oil reserves prime importance in terms of national security. Okay. So they are at Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh, Padur and Mangaluru in Karnataka and Chandikhol in Odisha. Make a note of this again. Important for you to remember where are our strategic oil reserves. Okay. At the same time, now that this has been done on a national level, this is the responsibility of the central government, but you and I also have a responsibility. How? Behavioral change in the public. Ditch your ditch your petrol diesel cars. Move to say CNG cars or probably EV cars. But then government also has a role to play here, that it should incentivize this migration. Right now, why do I prefer diesel cars? Because I like the feel of the car. That it gives that great thrust when you go from 80 to 100. So I like that particular thrust. As someone who drives cars, I like that. I don't find that in EV cars. Now, this is again a behavioral change that needs to be inculcated. You need to learn that, okay, your 5-second enjoyment is going to lead to 50 years of problems. At the same time, government needs to subsidize for making sure that at least primary interest is generated. So if you have not seen, I'll tell you, in New Delhi, most of the major ministries, in fact, almost all. So prior you had all those ambassador cars or those previous government cars that they had, Gypsy and all of that. All of that has been done away with. Now you have brand new Tata Nexon EV that has been introduced in every ministry, every office. Okay. So they have the electronic charging points and everything has been set up. So what is this? Government is leading the behavioral change from the front. That if the common man sees that, oh, that the Babu, the Sarkari Babu is using it, the IS officer is using it, so should I. Okay. Okay. Maybe it makes sense then. This is how you promote behavioral change. Lead by example. Okay. So this has to be done. And obviously extensive thrust on public transport, which I think is happening, guys. As Indians, we are suddenly realizing that maintaining a car is a headache. Okay. You are best served probably to have a two-wheeler or an EV at least, or probably just use the metro, Delhi Metro if you have. Since I belong, right now I'm in the NCR, Delhi Metro is a huge lifeline for us, huge boost for us. The fact that you can travel from one part of the city to any other part of the city in less than 40 minutes, in good AC, okay, little crowded if you go in the rush hours, but otherwise quite convenient. And what does this kind of public transport infrastructure do? It gives you access to opportunity firstly. Okay. The distance that seemed unimaginable. Some people stay in Noida, come to Gurgaon to work. If you go to Google Maps and see, driving one way is 2 hours. A metro will take you like 1 hour 20 minutes, 1 hour 15 minutes. Makes sense. Lesser hassle. You have more energy when you get to work. You can apply yourself better. Come back when you're back in your home again, you're not very tired. You can have some time with your family. These things matter. Why? Because public transport. It leads to just better integration of systems. You develop as an individual, better contribution to the economy, access to opportunity. So much is good with the public transport system that could be analyzed in possibly another class. And then obviously you need to convince with these folks also. Okay. Because right now what has happened is that in this whole conversation of OPEC and OPEC plus, India is nowhere to be seen. India is not a part of OPEC. India is also not a part of OPEC plus. So there is no direct dialogue happening. Okay. That eventually if you have to serve your interests with a group, with a cartel, you need to have some sort of mechanism to dialogue with them. That is absent right now. So a collaborative platform is needed for a more nuanced viewpoint. Again, this is the ideal scenario. Don't expect this to happen. Because again, like I told you, their oil exporting capabilities of the OPEC nations is linked to their economic health. So in spite of the fact that you might try to convince them that, okay, please can you maintain this particular oil level or this supply level, don't expect them to follow your diktats or your requests. Okay. So this is India's approach. And with this, we'll take a short break. Because I have a bad throat today. But if you have any questions regarding OPEC, guys, shoot me in the comment box quickly. And this is my Telegram channel that I was telling you about. If you're enjoying this analysis, if you're enjoying the lecture, please consider subscribing. Okay, please consider joining me. I share the PDFs of all lectures, the first information on the various lectures that I do, and it's a learning process. I don't spam. I respect your space. I don't want it to be a continuous bombardment of unnecessary messages. So I limit myself to 2 or 3 texts a day, things that are of your importance. If you feel that I could be helpful in your UPSC preparation, go ahead, scan it, join me in my official Telegram channel. All right, now that we'll move on to the second topic for the day, which is essentially something we can quickly go over, because again, there is only good things to discuss here. Okay, so women in social commerce, tailwind to a resilient growth. So if you understand and look at, say, the labor force participation, again, women lag behind men. Because their labor force participation, they are not a major part of the labor force, which means that their contribution, their ability to contribute to the economy is also limited. Okay, so this whole article is about that women should be given a platform to not just learn from each other or learn from the processes, but also contribute to the processes. Okay, so as of 2021, some facts and figures very quickly. The estimated size of the global social commerce market, 492 billion. Okay, e-commerce market, expected 2.5 growth incoming. So good time to be an Amazon affiliate, no? So this rapid rise in social commerce is expected to outpace the development of traditional marketplaces. More and more of commerce and trade is happening online. Okay, especially with the advent of digital media, cheap phones, cheap data plans, more and more people are now tempted to go and shop online, which means more and more people are marketing their goods online. Okay, so inclusive model of private sector participation in global economic growth. This is obviously leading to a better system, a more accountable, transparent system for individuals and collectives. So now here, gender dynamics, like I told you, women lag behind men in terms of labor force participation, okay, LFP, versus their ability to contribute in the economy. So this is the conversation that we're looking for. Okay, so generating a smooth avenue of transition from farm to non-farm employment. We always talk about this, no? The migration of employment from agriculture to, say, industry. Is it good? Is it bad? Depends on the viewpoint you take. But then the article tells me that this helps women build their businesses, adds to their household income, improves their economic and social well-being. Straight away you can understand. Why does Government of India insist on, say, a particular policy being in the name of the female, senior female person in the household, women in the household? Why is it? It's not just about financial capability. It is to do with dignity. It is to break the patriarchal system that we read about and talk about, and experience, in fact. Okay, it is to break that eventually, if you have to treat women, if you are going to treat women as equals, it has to begin from home. That the mother should have the same respect and responsibility as a father. And for that, you need to make her financially independent, because, well, a mother and a father, the dynamics are essentially determined by finance. If the father brings in finance, he becomes in a position of power. He will call the shots in the house. But suddenly, if the woman is also given this empowerment, therein a good balance is created. An atmosphere of respect is created, not just in the house, but in the community. Okay, so this is the primary understanding that we have here. Quickly, some facts and figures. The pandemic caused 114 million job losses, leading to a decline in the labor income. This is global facts and figures, guys. Okay, this is global facts and figures. Okay, so now in the post-pandemic era, social commerce is playing a role for women entrepreneurs, formal engagement with e-commerce giants. So you have, say, Amazon and Flipkart, like I told you. If you just go and search for any particular product that you can think of, ghee, dal, whatever, papad, all of these things that possibly are say origin from here, from India, you will find that most of the products that are being sold are by women self-help groups and collectives. Okay. So this enables them to what? Generate a product. The marketing is taken care of by Amazon, marketing is taken care of by Flipkart, and thereafter transport is taken care of by these individuals, and the product reaches to the consumer, that is you and me. Direct link they have to the consumer. Okay. And then they have also started doing online marketplaces. Instagram, major marketplace. Go and have a look. I was having a look just recently in my state of Bihar. Okay. So they have this particular pickle variety that is being made by a group of senior women, and it's very famous, very famous. It's from Darbhanga in Bihar. And so they would never be able to compete with, say, the traditional FMCG companies. But now, because they have a platform, because they have come online, and because they have a product, that is it. That's all you need. The supply chain is built there and then. Okay. So women entrepreneurs with access to social commerce are more likely to earn higher incomes, have access to financial services, adequate credit, lower operational costs. Like I told you, everything is online. No? You don't have to spend on marketing. Your marketing is what? A post. Your marketing is a reel. Your marketing is a short video you make. What's going to be the input cost for that? Not much. Probably a half decent mobile phone. Okay. Whereas imagine if they had to market a good without internet. Okay. Just for a simple ad in the newspaper, you will end up spending 5,000-10,000 rupees like that only. And what will be the conversion rate from the ad to actual people approaching you? You are not unsure. No way to measure that metric. But in the internet, through the internet, okay, these are the amount of people that I reached. These are the people who actually clicked on my link and went to my website. You have real-time information coming up about what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. Okay. So this is obviously the benefits of the whole women coming online that we are looking at. Fine. Quickly, way forward. Firstly, encourage women, make policies so that more and more women join the labor force, the labor market. Okay. Like you have seen UPSC, it writes that in the notification that it encourages women participation, women candidates to come forward. Why is that? Because it wants to uplift, it wants to be an agent of change. There is only good things that can happen with half your population that is not currently a part of the labor force if it becomes a part of the labor force. There is no downside to it at all. There is not one bad reason that anyone can point by saying that, okay, if more and more women join jobs, oh, this will happen. No, not even one. Okay. So this is only good news. It will boost productivity, give us lazy men some competitiveness. Top 5 ranks in UPSC, I think 4 were women. So they have already beaten us by like far high and mile. So, and this is what? When they're not a major part of the labor force. Imagine if this were to happen, and this will happen eventually. So the lazy men will have to pull up their socks. This is going to happen eventually. You can't live off the patriarchal mindset forever. Okay. Empowering women economically, ensuring their financial security, contributing to food security, basically investing in social capital. The more you invest in social capital, education, health, insurance, all of that, okay, the more access to nutritional food that you give to women, the better children that you will have, no stunting problems, nutrient is taken care of. Again, if the woman is earning, oh my God, it's like a good ideal scenario that I'm painting for you. But then that requires a lot of intervention, lot of hard work. Yes. In the unorganized sector, again, because there is no way to quantify it, Rajan. Do you understand? In the unorganized sector, it is unorganized only because there is no way to quantify who is where. And again, there's a lot of flux. Someone who is probably working for half a day today may not be working tomorrow. Okay, so that is the unorganized sector. Okay, all right. And then you need to have enforcement and judicial response against violators. So that is it, guys. I have run out of time. It's 8:55. So, but before I let you go, there's another topic that I wanted to discuss, the Kakhovka Dam. But please do make sure that you go ahead and have a look at the whole video, explainer video that is on StudyIQ IAS. It's just 15 minutes long, but it will clear your whole concepts around Kakhovka. On that note, it's a wrap. I shall see you tomorrow at the same time, 8 a.m. IST. Till then, take care. Have a good day. Bye.